Moms for Liberty is a group of moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, and uncles who are dedicated to fighting for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to fight for their parental rights at all levels of government. We are hyper-focused into public education because we do see that is where we're losing so many of our liberties as parents, and where we're losing our nation based on the different things that are happening in our schools. So there's a lot of different things that we do to fight for parental rights. Basically, we try to hold decision makers accountable, and we work to replace them with liberty-minded individuals if they don't work out for us or align with our principles. We work to spread awareness and an understanding of the limited role of government. In New York State, I think we can all relate that it's kind of out of control. We stand together against government overreach and intimidation tactics, especially at the school board level. I'm not sure if anyone in the room has ever attended a school board meeting. It's ironic at how welcoming they are when people show up. Oh, parents in the room, this is exciting. And then when you start to have opinions, it's like, ooh, we're going to limit how much you can say and the amount of time you can speak. Ooh, you know what? We're not going to talk about that on our agenda this meeting, so we're not going to let you talk about that. So, I mean, the more we speak, the more we get limited in what we can say in public meetings, and so that's intimidation, and so we try to fight against that. We promote teaching the principles of liberty in our homes and our schools, and we engage our community leaders, elected leaders, on key issues impacting our families, and we work to activate liberty-minded leaders to serve in elected positions. Mainly right now, we focus on school board members. We work to elect school board members, new ones, either work with ones that are in place that maybe just don't know that there's support out there to help them fight for liberty, or if there isn't any on your districts, then we help you to encourage and empower people to run for school board and to help get them elected. So that's where we are. We started during COVID, and so there was a lot of protesting and you know, that sort of a thing, because we were kind of behind the 8 ball and really just coming on the scene of grassroots types organizations, and so we were just fighting to be heard. We've kind of moved on from that. Not saying that rallies and protests do not have a place, but we've moved on to more of building relationships within our school districts. I know it's hard, but especially at that local level, when you watch the news and on media, it's easy to call, people involved in government the devil or they're evil, but when you get down to that local level, these are people, these are your neighbors, and you know them, or you might run into them in the grocery store. You really can't get a lot accomplished if you're calling them the devil. So you do have to learn to, work with them and learn the language and develop relationships. And honestly, I have found out that they're not, even though we may not 100% agree on things, we have more in common than what we realize. And so I've learned to have smaller conversations and getting more people engaged that way. We do have a mantra for Moms for Liberty. It's called, we call ourselves joyful warriors. So even though people are calling us, Nazis and domestic terrorists, and when we had our summit down in Philadelphia, we had crazy people just screaming at us and hateful things, but we have a mantra of joyful warriors. And so I love that we have that, because there's moments when you're just overwhelmed, when I'm overwhelmed with emotions, and it's hard for me sometimes to just not want to but I'm a joyful warrior, and I must remember that my children are watching me, and we want them to model good citizen behavior. So even when the hate comes, we have to remember to be calm and to have a respectful tone, so that our children can learn. Because I'm 52, I'm not going to be here forever, and I'm realizing that I'm not doing this so much for me, but for my children and my grandchildren. And we need to teach them how to continue to fight for their liberties when we're gone. So I say that to say, you don't have to have kids in the school to be in Moms for Liberty, and you don't need to have kids in the school to be a chapter chair if you were to start a chapter in your county. You basically just have to go to momsforliberty.org and learn more about us, or you can call me or email me and I'll have a conversation with you. But you basically just need to see that there's some work to be done at the local level and be willing to put yourself forward to be a leader, to have that voice and to lead your county toward the means to that end. And we have 14 chapters in New York State right now. You're not alone. We are a close-knit group. We have we have chats, we have emails, we have discussions. We talk to each other one-on-one and in groups. We are a team. New York State is a unicorn in a lot of ways. The school board, the Department of Education in New York State is insane how it's run, and we're one of the only states. I think we might be the only state where our school board elections are done at the district level. They're not. You don't have to be registered to vote in a school board election, and you don't have to. But you don't have to have kids in the school or whatever. Oh, but the school districts maintain those elections. Our board of elections do not oversee or get involved in our school board elections. And so New York is very different from other states. So while we are a national organization, the local support is really important because not every state works in the same way. Like Florida, all their school districts are one county. You know, I'm in Wayne County. I have 11 school districts. I quickly looked up your county. I want to say you have 17.
Yeah, it's about.
So yes. So you would have 17 school districts that hopefully you would have, parents eventually involved in each of them, so that you could support and help them to affect change at the local level.
How did you get them involved, though?
That's the thing. That's the rub, right? I think every grassroots organization is trying to figure out how do we get people involved and to stay involved. You have a nice size crowd there, and that's fantastic. A lot of people don't know about us, and so we do have a Facebook group. We've been. And every situation is different. You have to find out what's best for you and your organization, but word of mouth advertising is still the least expensive and the most effective. So to get more people talking about the organization and talking to parents and community members and inviting them to meetings is still the best way to do it. But we've done farmers markets. We've been at the fair, our county fair. We've done different organizations will have different events. If they have like vendor tables, we'll have a table there, to educate people as to what we do. And those are some of the things. And just attending school board meetings ourselves, trying to find parents and see if parents are, at those meetings, and then introducing ourselves and letting them know that we're there, that sort of thing. I mean, it's marketing basically. So if you have a marketing brain, or if you know anyone that can help you in those areas, or we can get more specific, if you wanted to start a chapter. What are some of our successes? We have had school board members elected. We haven't flipped any boards yet, but that's good, to start. We've only been in existence for 2 years, and so we've been able to. The first year we had 5 elected, and then this year we had 2 more. So we have 11 school districts across, and usually every year we have somewhere between 24 and 28 candidates or seats up. So we've been able to replace 7 of those, and those have been really fantastic. We honestly, like I said, it's kind of changed, but we have been meeting with administrators one-on-one and getting to know them. And so I've met some of them, and getting them to understand that we're not against them, that we're with them, I think that's a win. And so again, while we may not always necessarily agree with everything, but I think your area is more rural, and so is ours. I can't say that word, too many R's in one word, I can't do it. But you probably have smaller communities there, and what works there doesn't necessarily the same thing that happens in Syracuse or Albany, and definitely not New York City. But in order to know what works, you need to know who those people are, and so getting involved in that way and knowing who your people are, that's a success. being in a room, calling for an appointment and getting an appointment and having a conversation, especially when the media keeps saying that we're domestic terrorists, that's a win. We have partnered with the 917 Society, and they are a Constitution-based organization. They're a nonprofit, and so they print pocket constitutions and donate them across the nation. We have partnered with them, and I have 1,000 constitutions sitting in my living room right now, ready to deliver to our schools. So building a relationship like that so that we could deliver those, because September 17th is Constitution Day. So we partnered with them to get a pocket constitution to every 8th grader in our county, and I believe almost every chapter in New York State is doing that. So potentially we're getting tens of thousands of constitutions to 8th graders in New York State. That's a win for them to accept anything from us. We've also partnered with various more conservative book publishers like the Tuttle Twins, Ben Carson, Brave Books, but they donated books to Moms for Liberty, and then they send them to us, and then we get them in our schools. So that's a win. Learning our election law. We are reading the laws in New York State and using them to make sure, like we said, holding school boards accountable, and learning things that parents can do to be more involved. And so when we find something, like in my own school district, and I didn't blast them because my kids go to Marion School, Central School. I don't know if anyone knows where Marion is in Wayne County. But the law says, like your school board, when you have a school board meeting, like any public meeting, you have 2 weeks to publish those minutes from that meeting. Well, for 2 years, my district did it. And so I addressed that and said, hey, the law says, and she's like, oh snap, you're right, let me get that done. And so within a week, all of the minutes were there. I call that a win. That's holding our local officials accountable. When school boards have been misusing executive session, talking about things, especially during the shutdowns, masking was a big thing. And they were trying to have private meetings and executive session, so we didn't know what their personal views were on masking and other things like the shutdowns and stuff. We said, no. The law says executive session is only used for very specific things like contracts and personnel issues and legal issues. This does not qualify. If you're going to discuss that, you have to have that in public at an open meeting, and we're going to hold you accountable. And we prevented several districts in Wayne County from trying to do that. And so they did have open discussions because of that. So wow. I think those are 100% wins. And that's what we're capable of doing. And that's what we're looking forward to doing more of in the future. Oh, and let me interject. So sorry, I forgot to mention this earlier. We have, there's 62 counties in New York. We want a chapter in every county. But even with just 14 chapters, we've made a big difference in the state. And we've moved on to, formed our legislative committee where we're more going to be lobbying Albany. So Moms for Liberty New York State, we have our individual counties where we advocate locally, but we're also have an organization at the state level. And so we're going to be working toward either more than likely starting with protesting against or advocating against bad legislation that takes away parental rights. But we're going to be moving into advocating for good legislation, building relationships with our assemblymen and our senators, and hopefully one day getting to a point where we can get some, and we have to work with the Democrats on that. It is what it is. And there's a few that we can still pushing forward good bills that could preserve parental rights in our state.
That's great. That's great.
Are you
we can
guys?
give her a hand.
Jennifer, are you guys doing anything as far as what NICEAD has put out, that 42-page document on transgender diversity and all that? Are you guys going to be able to attack that, or?
We do. It's unfortunate. We can't get specific language. Like when we say, because that whole document says, this is based on law. And then when you look at the laws that are cited in that document, they're not really what it says. And so when we say that's not what it says, like we've even been quoted, and we talk with our individual districts, because you have to fight at the local level. So, because we've had several districts go ahead and make policies based on that document saying that we've had to, it's the law. And we're like, okay, that's not the law. And then we had another attorney come back and say, well, it's not that law, it's the New York State Human Rights Amendment. And that was amended in 2019 under Cuomo, and they added, sexuality to a human right. And so therefore we have to. And I'm like, okay, you keep moving the goalpost, and so we're making them squirm. That we have had several school districts pass official policies that mirror that, you can use any space that you want. There's no protected space based on, male, female. We have not had any, specifically the concern is males, because I don't know if any females honestly would go to that way, but maybe they would. But I wouldn't want my son to see a topless girl either in the locker room. I definitely don't want my daughter seeing a penis. Sorry, I don't know if you have mixed crowd in there, sorry. But we haven't seen where anyone has actually acted on it, but the policies are being put in place, and we are 100% letting them know that that's not okay. And what we're being told is that they are doing it out of fear for lawsuits, because I guess someone somewhere down the line sued a school and they lost in court, and because a boy wanted to be in a girl's locker room. And so the justification is because the lawyers always fall on the side of, we don't want to be sued, that you need to advocate for these policies and adhere to these policies, because you might risk, getting sued and owing millions. But we're like, okay, well, we can sue too. I'm just saying, so you can't pick winners and losers. So I can honestly say at the local level, a lot of them are not comfortable with it. They just don't know what to do with it. And honestly, I've heard from teachers and administrators and school board members, this ends when more parents show up. And if we had more parents and community members at school board meetings rallying against this, we wouldn't even be here right now. But here we are. But it's constantly educating people. Like, we're having a meeting on Thursday in here in Wayne County, and we met Sarah Stockton. She is a licensed clinical therapist who lives in Syracuse. If you've seen the movie or the documentary from Daily Wire with Matt Walsh, What is a Woman? Yeah. She is featured in there. She's one of the therapists, and she was actually my favorite before I even knew who she was. But she's actually local to us. She lives in Syracuse. She's coming to our meeting on Thursday to educate parents on what's really going on with gender dysmorphia, and how basically, I don't know if you've seen that movie, oh gosh, no, I don't remember, but the one about child trafficking, The Sound of Freedom, and the tagline is, our children are not for sale. I'm telling you, in this country, it's not just trafficking, our children are 100% for sale. Sarah said, where she lives in Syracuse, Upstate Medical is, for the first time in years, operating in the black, because they're doing top surgeries on girls, and they're going to be looking to move to the bottom surgeries. Our children's body parts are being used to fund medical systems, and that's 100% wrong. And that starts in the schools with the pronouns and pushing. If you're not comfortable in your skin, you can change your gender. And it starts there, and it goes out to the medical communities. And so we're trying to have speakers like Sarah come in and show parents this is not some distant thing that's happening on social media only. The level of authority that's added to it, because it's being pushed in your schools with these types of policies and different things, are, it's happening in the school. So we're just working to, educate parents, bring in dynamic speakers, and try to be entertaining, I guess, for lack of a better term, but also informative and inspire parents to understand that they are the answers.
Jennifer, you guys are doing great. I really appreciate all this information. I see Bobby Ann just got on too. But,
yeah, Bobby Ann's fantastic. Yep.
We have one question back here. Roy, go ahead.
Yeah, could you tell us what the response of teachers and teacher students is to you? Is it wholly negative or what?
Did you hear that?
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Could you elaborate on teachers' responses to this, your efforts? Is it entirely negative or somewhat positive? Are you getting any kind of feedback from them?
I would. You're asking like what teachers' responses to us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know. about you, but if you're in a more rural community like we are, your school systems are probably your biggest employers in the area. And so a lot of your teachers, or especially your support system, like your drivers and your maintenance staff and your cafeteria, most of them are local people. And so they see what's going on in the schools and they don't like it, and they do what they can within the schools that they're in, but they don't, it's their livelihood, so they're very quiet and they get bullied. There's a lot of peer pressure. The unions, don't ever underestimate the power of a union in any entity at all. And so we have a lot of, spies, if you will, or quiet teachers that say, look, I want to tell you what's going on, but you can't use my name. And so we are finding them, and it's been a lot of hard work to do that because there's been so much distrust through the lockdowns, and because the unions are like, don't change your school board. They want to defund your schools. That's not anything that we have the power to do. We're just trying to have more parent presence in the schools. And so it's just changing the narrative and educating them that we're not against you. We send our kids to these schools. We're not against you. So it's just those constant conversations. And when we are finding them, they're like, oh, thank you so much. But we really just need more of you. If you would speak out, if your students would speak out when there's an obscene book being read in class, and that is happening, they're not just in the libraries, they're in the classrooms and they're part of unit studies, they're uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be called out because they think they're alone. When we can be more effective in letting teachers know and students know and parents know you are not the only ones that feel this way, we do have change, and we have been able to do it in a micro level within some of the school districts. And so those are wins, but to answer a long-winded way to say, we are finding them, and there's a lot more of them who don't like what's going on than do. They just don't know who to trust.
Well, thank you very, very much, Jennifer.